Hello everybody, welcome to a thumbnail tutorial. I've had a few people ask me my process for going about making some of the thumbnails for our videos, and so I thought I would share kind of my process. First off, we're going to go create new. So I'm sure most of you know this, but YouTube has dimensions that are set for when you make a thumbnail. So resolution and all of that, I usually, you can see I've got the kind of preset here, but I'll do 1920 by 1080 at a 72 resolution, 72 DPI. That's just good for web things. You know, if I were to print these or something, you might want a higher resolution, bigger size, that kind of thing. But we're not. We're just going to do, assuming for the web. So we're going to go create. So I'm doing everything in Photoshop. I actually do my art in Clip Studio and import it later. We'll get to that eventually, but just so you know, I'm not drawing in Photoshop. I'm probably going to do a drawing tutorial as well for how I draw our little boys that are going to show up later. But yeah, so I'll get started. I always like to start, before I even get a logo on or anything, I just like to pick a color that I think kind of fits the vibe of the game. So in this case, we're doing one for God of War for PS4. Oftentimes, I just like to get a feel of the kind of the overall color of the game, the aesthetic, the vibe of the game, and that can give me some ideas for picking a color scheme for the thumbnail. So I kind of like this expansive blue. There seems to be a fair amount of gray as well. So let's see. That's a pretty boy. Haven't gotten to him yet in the game. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start off. I usually start off with a gradient. So those of you who don't know, over here, normally it's going to look like your paint bucket tool. And if you pick a color, you can paint and it'll just paint the whole screen. So what I've done, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to add another layer here. Sorry, I've never done a tutorial before. Just kind of do stuff. So the layers are essentially like adding a new clear piece of paper over top of what you're working on. So for example, if I have a new layer here, you can see I've got layer 1, which I added by clicking this little button. I could draw something, and then add another layer over top. And, you know, I could draw something else. I don't know, some abstract art for you here. But if I go in and delete that layer, now I only have this layer. So kind of things end up being nice and protected that way. So yeah, I'm going to delete that layer, start over. We got a new fresh layer. So I like to start off with a gradient. And that just kind of creates a bit of a breakup so you're not dealing with flat colors. I find flat colors really gross. So to get to our gradient tool, we go over here to the paint bucket, this little guy here, and you hover or hold your mouse down rather and click the gradient tool. So when you do this now, you can go in and you get kind of a fade between different colors. In this case, it starts off, the default is black and white, but you can go in and pick new colors by, you know, different patterns. Sometimes there's groups of 3, groups of 4, all of that. So you can go in and pick the colors that you like. So like I said, I kind of liked that blue. So let's pick a kind of a nice sky-ish, blue-ish. And maybe we'll do something a little bit more to the gray side. Kind of a it's gloomy gray. Okay, cool. That's a little weird. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. So I am recording this on I'm screen capturing my Mobile Studio Pro, my Wacom tablet, and then running that into my computer. So I hope everything records okay. So this is still a little weird. So let's maybe just make this a little more saturated. I just want something, it's going to be, you know, kind of not the focus. So I like to just set it, you know, so it's just there and just creates a bit of a nice texture. So a little trick for you. Now that we've picked that, you can go in and do different types of gradients. So here is just kind of that it almost like a cylinder thing if you do it small enough, where you've got like a shadow on this side towards the lighter side here. You can do kind of a radial sort of thing, so that bases it around a like a circle, and you can change the size and that kind of thing. You can do kind of, yeah, just play around with these. There's lots of cool different ones. I normally tend to go for the radial or the cylinder, for lack of, I don't know what it is, cylinder thing. In this case, I'm feeling like radial because it kind of gives it a nice little, I don't know, it's prettier. You can play around by holding shift. You get straight angles or just straight lines. That can be helpful because sometimes you can get off onto weird little tangents otherwise. But I'm just gonna play around with it till I find something I'm satisfied with. Sure, let's do that. Okay, so the next step at this point usually is to import the logo of the game. So if you're handy with Photoshop, oftentimes you can rip it from images like this or do that. But big games or kind of well-known games usually can save you a step if you just do something like this. Now, I haven't tested it, so hopefully it pans out for me and I don't look like an idiot. But now we've got a PNG. So for those of you who don't know, a PNG file is a file that it's a high quality image file that also contains transparency. So you can identify the transparency by these little checkers in most images will show up. Like if it's a program that can't render transparency, it'll render as this little gray and white checker pattern. So that's real handy for identifying a nice high quality PNG. This one's not loading. Let's see. This looks pretty good. So let's just go ahead and save this. I've got all my artwork in folders, so I'm just gonna save it to there. Now you can do a few different things to get that into your Photoshop file. You can open up your recent and just drag it in. That tends to work. Or you could also go File, Import. Over here. It's not letting me do that because I haven't finished up with this yet. So in your Photoshop default settings, it should show up with kind of this little grid thing. It's hard to, let's see if I can, I don't know if it shows up when you use, oh shit, sorry. Yeah, so if you drag this around, you can see this little purple guide will let you know when your image is centered. I'm going to zoom in on this, just make sure this image doesn't look like ass. Which it does. So I'm thinking we could maybe find a higher quality one. I'm just trying to tell if this is, this is so far from ideal. Yeah, I'm not super satisfied with this. So give me a sec. I'll be back with a better one. So what we can do is go ahead and delete this. I'll BRB, kids. Okay, I'm back. So I couldn't really find one that was better. You got to sometimes just kind of manage your time and figure out what's important in life. And I don't think looking for a logo is. I've had to get creative in the past, go and find like actual fonts and that kind of thing, and try and recreate logos to the best of my ability. I had to do that with trying to think some of the games like Hand Simulator, Mother Simulator, a lot of the simulator games, the smaller ones where you can't necessarily find the piece right away that you're after. So anyway, I'm gonna roll with this for now, and you can kind of play around with some things here before, just positioning and that kind of thing. So like I was mentioning, really poorly explaining before, is you can move the thing around to where you want it, whether you want it in the center. I tend to have it kind of up here just so I have room for stuff down here, like the episode number and the boys and that kind of thing. So you can move it around, and Photoshop will default kind of show you the middle. So I use that to kind of line it up. You can also use your guides. If you don't see those, I think you go here and then like show guides. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, view. I just leave them on. They don't bother me. Some people they do, not me. So show guides. Okay, cool. So the next step for what I do is to usually I used to kind of do some little fun patterny things. So for example, I would add like polka dot pattern or something behind. But what I've started doing lately that I kind of enjoy is creating a pattern from scratch. So I'm gonna show you that now. So if we go Google again. I'm on Google, am I not? No, I'm on my Google Drive. Ooh, I hope there's nothing important on there that people can see. If we go to images now, so I Googled Google. I'm officially 90. So God of War has an axe. So let's do that. So what I'll do is find a PNG, which I already explained to you, and find something kind of that seems to fit the theme of the game. Maybe I'll even do, let's try this. Kratos, axe for the uninitiated. That is the main character of God of War. I'm not seeing anything that really speaks to me, so let's just go battle. Axe. Ooh, battler. Battle axe.png. Let's see. This one's kind of cool. I don't know if it's a PNG though. Let's see. Let's try and download it. You let me download this? You're gonna be dicks about it. I think they're gonna be dicks about it. Maybe not. Okay. Cool. So yeah, Kratos has that. And then Kratos also has a shield. So let's try shield. And we're just basically all I'm looking to do is make a little pattern for us to work with. Oh, there's two in this? I don't like that. I guess we can cut it. Okay. So we'll save this as well. So we're going to put this here as well. Cool. Boom. All right. So, forgive me for not using, game correct assets. Oh, you know what I just realized is my axe is really cartoony. I want something a little more cheese ball, I think. Ooh. This one will do. That's got this glow around it. That's all right, fine. So we'll save the image. So you can see the glow I'm talking about. It's got this black little glow and it kind of fades away. So that's something you'll want to keep in mind when you're looking for an image. It's just something that doesn't, it's not too distracting. So same deal with the logo. I can just drag them in and hit enter to deselect it. We're going to move it around later, but oh, shit. Sorry, hold on. This, okay. So they don't feel very compatible right now. One, because they're different sizes. And two, they, I don't know, they just don't feel compatible. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get them kind of roughly the same size. And what I'm probably going to do, I'm going to edit duplicate layer. I did that by right-clicking. Let's call this medieval battle axe. And then we're going to edit transform flip horizontal. Now we've got a badass kind of, thing. And so what you can do now is, because these are on separate layers, like I was showing you earlier, like I can move them independently, but I kind of want them to be one unit. So if we go and hold shift and select both of them, now we can go and merge layers. So now my axes are on one layer, which I prefer. So we're going to transform this and make it the right size for our needs. A little bit smaller. I just want it to kind of feel cool, with this, and because we're going to be making a pattern out of it. Really, this is a lot of work for very little payoff, because these are going to be shrunken down so small that they're just there for texture, really. That's all I do. It's all I do. Okay, so this is a good time to explain some things because, like I was mentioning before, this has this black glow around it. So this feels kind of incompatible with this right now because it doesn't have a black glow. Well, Photoshop makes it real easy to kind of tweak things to stylize them a little bit. So what you can do is you can double click on this and it brings up your layer style menu. You can also access that from over here in layer and layer style, and you can select any of those in the menu individually. I don't like that because I like to be able to just get a bunch of shit done at once. So let's give this thing, it's a glow and it's an outer glow. It's glowing on the outside, right? So we can go down here. Oh, it did it automatically for me just by clicking that little check mark. I'm going to lower the spread of it. I think will probably help. We just want it to look pretty close to that other one. So that's pretty good. Might lower the opacity a tiny bit because that glows just a little more faint on the shield. Cool. Boom. Done. So the shield right now, you can see it's got this little guy here. I don't know if it's a page or what. I'm so far away from my screen because I have a mic in front of me that I can't even tell. Hold on. Yeah, it's like a little page with a square. What that means is this is an object. It's an image that we imported. You can see that God of War has the same thing. So what we want to do is turn this into just what's called a raster, which is what it's a raster layer, which is what Photoshop kind of plays nicest with as far as being able to stretch stuff, squash stuff, draw on stuff and that kind of thing. If I were to try and draw on this, I don't think it'll let me. Yeah, so the smart object must be rasterized before proceeding. So what we can do is right click and hit rasterize layer. So once you're sure you're happy with kind of what you're planning to do, you can rasterize the layer, and we can go ahead and do that with the axe as well. So we'll rasterize the layer style. So now what I want to do is make a pattern repeating all the way down here, all the way up, just covering this bitch of a gradient with some pretty little axe and shield. So I'm going to move this down first. Actually, I'm going to transform it. So you can do that by, I will go Control T on Windows. I think Command T on Apple stuff. Apple stuff. Just kidding. So I'm going to make it like yay big. Enter. And now we're going to do the same thing. Oops, sorry. With this. Command T, transform it. I'm going to drag it over a little closer so I can get them nice and close in size. And just grab the little corner here, shrink them down, and boom. Now, like I was saying before, where it'll tell you kind of the, oh God, I zoomed in too much. I'm gonna just get over, and hit enter. So when you move stuff around, it'll tell you whether they're lined up as well, which is super nice. So what I'm going to do is merge these layers now, and we're going to be repeating this process a million times. So I'll probably fast forward here because my goal was to have this as a concise tutorial, but we're going to move this down to the corner. And then what we do is hit V. I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer because I'm clicking on it because I have the depth perception of an old warthog. So click lock that layer. So now I can't drag it around or anything, which is nice. So what we want to do is Command C, Control C, whatever you're working with, and hit Shift Control V. So what that does is it pastes on a new layer in the exact same place. So you can see I can hide this. Boom, I can still see it. Until I hide both of them, they're not going to disappear. But what that means is now by hitting V, I can drag this layer, and if I hold Shift, it only lets me move it on this axis, this horizontal axis. So you might be good at math, you might not, but now we can go ahead and merge these. And we'll do the same thing. Now I'm going to do it, but now instead of copying 2, I'm copying 4. And that's real nice because every time you do it, the faster it gets. Cool. So I'm going to merge these layers again, because otherwise if you copy, it's only gonna copy the layers selecting. So if you want to get this beautiful exponential business, you got to do that. Shift Command V, hold Shift, drag it over, and you repeat. till you're blue in the face. So merge layer, V, drag, Command C, Shift Command V, and drag that all the way over till you're satisfied. Oh, didn't work. Sorry. Hold on. My mouse is getting. Okay, we'll do this then. Boom. Cool. Look at that. We got one whole row done, kids. This is beautiful. I'm probably fast forwarding this. So we're going to merge layers. V, Command C. So now we're going to change it up. We're going to hit Shift Command V, but we're going to drag it up instead of down. And I don't like the way this looks. So I'm going to offset it a little bit. Use your arrow keys as well to kind of fine tune some of this. I just want it to kind of be a nice little thing. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to merge these layers. But what you might have noticed is there's this little gap here. So what I'm going to do is just drag it and collect all of these and hit Command C and Shift Command V. But we're going to drag up again. Oop, I just dragged my guide. Dragged. And what you can do is line these up. You can zoom in and kind of line them up just so they perfectly overlap like this. And now we don't have that problem anymore. So all I did was essentially shift it up half instead of the whole amount, and it fixes your problem. So we're going to merge these. We're almost done now because copying this and Shift Command Ving, we're going to drag it up. I keep grabbing that and shift it over. And we keep having this problem. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I don't have this figured out. I think we might be able to. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Sorry. I haven't thought this out. Apologies for not planning my tutorials. I'm just going to get these lined up pretty good. It doesn't matter too much. Like I said, this is a texture. So we're going to merge the layers. Boom. Select all of that. Command C, Shift Command V. Drag that whole unit up. Just keeping an eye out for anything kind of looking a little wonky. I think we're okay. It's probably not perfect, but it's good enough for YouTube. Okay, merge these layers. Command C, one more time, baby. Shift Command V, drag it on up. And you have got yourself a fancy-ass little pattern. And so we're just going to do that adjustment one more time. Make sure it's nice. Don't analyze this too much, kids. I think it looks pretty good, but it might not be perfect. Okay, we're good. So we're going to merge this. And, I'm looking at this gradient. I'm going to hide this quick. I don't really care for it too much. So I'm going to go back to my gradient tool. I think I want something just a little bit. I know I said I liked the gloom, but on second look, I'm not a huge fan. I think I want something a little brighter. Mostly because I think thinking about our artwork that I'm going to import next, that seems to be pretty cute to me. So I tend to gravitate towards the cuter side of things. I forgot I did it on a radial. I'm going to do it on this. I think this is better. I'm just going to double check and see how the logo pops. Maybe I'll go like this is better, actually. And I don't want it to be too, I want it to be more blue, less white. So I'm making it bigger to kind of get rid of some of that white. I just want it to sit like that. Okay, so I was talking about layer properties, and then I think so I showed you that with the axe, right? So, but there's also different types of layers. So as you can see, this is insanely distracting. So what we could do, if we wanted to, is just lower the opacity of it so that it just kind of sits there. But it's still kind of gross to me because the brown is just an ugly color always. So you can play around with these the dissolve, multiply, color burn, darker color, all of these, and you can find some really nice ones. So I tend to like screen or color dodge a lot depending on what I'm going for. I find, oh shit, I did not realize that I missed a little spot there. So I'm going to go back and fix that. But these tend to be quite nice for patterns, I find, just because they sit and you can see them, but they don't get in the way. So I'll probably play around with screen. I like screen a little more the way it plays with the gradient behind. So, okay, but first of all, I'm going to fix that little hole because that's gonna be annoying. So I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, sorry. So I had that merged. So okay, we're gonna go down. Yeah, play around with these. There's some really powerful kind of ways to manipulate things that feel very cool, and it makes you look like you know what you're doing. Cool. So we'll go with that. And now checking our logo, it seems to sit a little nicer. So I'm gonna just still play around with the opacity of this. Just make it a little mellower. Just something there. Give it a little bit of pattern. So that's how you can make your own patterns. There's also, you know, you can register patterns and that kind of thing as individual things. So if we wanted to, and I wanted to bring this up again, I could do that and I'd be able to apply this pattern to whatever. There's tons of tutorials about that, so I'm not going to get too far into it. Okay, so the next step at this point usually for me is to bring in the artwork of the thing that I draw, because I draw all of... I try to draw something themed for the characters, depending on the game. Like we kind of have these little avatars that we use. And I'm just going to try and track that down here. Hold up. Here we go. Okay. Boom. There we are. So as you can see, you know, Jeeves is looking pretty good. And I'm looking a little bit sad, little disappointed at the body ratio here between us. I'm trying to decide if I want to take up this much with them. I think I do, just because I kind of like the ratio of height and everything. If I pull them down, that won't be as obvious. I like my little pot belly. So, okay. So we're going to, as you can see, the boys are above. I usually would have, whatever layer you have above is the one that shows on top. So if I put, you know, the God of War logo on top, now I can drag it down. It's going to cover them. So whatever you have on top is going to be kind of what's primarily visible. I'll say it that way. So what I like to do first off is open up our layer properties again. Anytime I import the boys, is give them a stroke. Now a stroke is just a solid hard outline. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. And the stroke is a solid hard outline around, and it just kind of, I find, makes them pop if I give them a white stroke. It's something I've just started doing. I didn't do it on some of our earlier ones, but I've been happy with it. So I'll bump the opacity up to full, pull the size down a little bit. It's just enough, and you can see sometimes that there's little artifacts that I missed when I was drawing. So what I'll do is just go in and rasterize this without rasterizing the layer style. If you rasterize the layer style, it's going to keep that stroke as basically new pixels. That's just, it mushes everything into a new piece of art. We don't want that. So what I want is to pull out my eraser, which is this one, and I'm just going to fix this quick. Depending on whether you're drawing your own artwork or not, simply erasing the pixel will pull the stroke away as well. You don't have to actually try and erase the stroke. You just want to erase what is causing the stroke to be created in the first place. Okay, cool. So we've done that. The other thing I like to do is add a drop shadow. Part of this is because I tend to shade at about I don't know what you'd call that, the light coming from about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock kind of thing. So the drop shadow just kind of helps them pop off the thumbnail while also just kind of keeping consistent with the lighting that I draw them. So you can change the angle of that. So I'll move it to about 2 o'clock. You can change how far away it is, you know, might be high noon or whatever. I tend to keep it about there. You can change the opacity, which is just going to make it a little mellower. But that just kind of, as you can see, without it, they look flat on it. Now they look like they're standing out above it, which I find to be pretty cool. It helps just, create that kind of texture, that 3D texture. So I'm going to do the same thing now with the, they've got a drop shadow on the logo here. And unfortunately for me, it actually kind of keeps somewhat consistently with my drop shadow for the boys, but I might just play around with some glow. So that outer glow that we did before, I don't necessarily like the black. I might go with a white, but I just want something that pops. But this doesn't look too good because the shadow's kind of ugly. Maybe we will try a black, and we'll just try and lower the opacity a little bit. I just want to create a bit of a pop. And I'm going to make this a little bigger. So if I hit Command T or go File, Edit, or Edit Transform, I just want to just bring it out in size a little bit because we want to capture the attention of potential viewers. So let's put this around here. What do you guys think? I think it looks all right. That's working for me. That's a good look. Cool. So now at this point, you might think, wow, what more could you possibly do? Well, first of all, I noticed that my guy is a little bit more off to the side than Jeeves over here. So I'm going to just do one of these commands. Command X. Nope. No, hold on. Sorry. I just got to select this. Why is this happening right now? I don't want that. I want this. Oh, you know what? I'm totally using V, which is layer select, but I want marquee. So I'm going to X, Shift Command V. As you can see, my boys are now on their own layer, which is nice. So I'm going to show you another little handy trick while we're here. And I'm just going to move Jeeves down just a hair. I know I said I wanted to keep his height, but I also want to keep the logo in view. So if you go here, Rico's on this layer. Jeeves is on this layer. I can actually copy the layer style and apply this to anything. So paste layer style. Boom. Now they've got the same thing. I can go ahead and merge these again. I just wanted to move them over so they're a little more spread out, leave some room for a episode thumbnail. So in that, what I'm going to do is add another layer. Before I do my episode thumbnail, I'll show you one other thing that I do just on the Rico and Jeeves thumbnails, and it'll give me an excuse to show you one more thing. So I'm going to take my gradient tool again, and I've got a layer over top of everything. And I'm going to use the gradient tool, and I'm going to change the color here. And I'm actually going to pull from the God of War logo. Because I think, so I'm going to try and find maybe the lightest section on the God of War logo. That should do it, about there. Let's try over there. That's good. And then, that's basically white. I don't know what I was fumbling for. Hold on. Let me get a little bit of a, this is a better way to do this. 100%. Okay, so we'll go back to our gradient. Boom. I'm going to pull the lightest color here. And the darkest color. Somewhere around here. So now I've got a gradient that is kind of pulled from aspects of the game, which I like. And I'm going to go and just put that gradient over top. And you're going, wait, Rico, you just undid all your work. No, chill out. So using these guides, I can go in and kind of pull essentially just a nice little center, and that little purple line pops up. Now, if I cut this, Command X, boom, I got a little border. What more do you want from me? So if I Control X, I keep saying Command. I don't even have an Apple computer. I don't know what my problem is. So now we've got a lovely little way of giving everything some focus, the border. So if we open up our layer styles again, there's a couple cool things you can do. One is the bevel and emboss. As you can see now, it looks like it's 3D. Without, with. Whoa, that's magic. So you can play around with the depth of that like anything else, and just gives it a little bit more of a consistency. As you can see, it's already remembered that I set my lighting from there. So the shadow of that is in line with the game logo as well as the voids that I drew. So that's kind of cool. That's just a nice little thing that I like. And then you can go, one other cool thing is the pattern overlay. So if we go here, as you can see, it's got a number of different kind of options. The most important is the pattern. So if you go down, you can find different things from Photoshop. Some of these I've installed. And I'm just going to try and pick something that fits the overall aesthetic of what we're doing. So I've already got some circles in there and the axes. So I might just do something a little bit more plain. You can play around with the opacity of it and the scale of it. So, that's it's a little big. I kind of like that maybe. And then if I just lower the opacity back, our gradient's going to appear again. And that just gives it a nice little texture. So that's fun. Last thing we have to do, we've got a lot of layers here, is add one more. And what this is going to be is kind of what I like to call our master text layer. So because we're doing more than one of these, Lord willing, I'm going to add a number for number 1. But I kind of want to find something. I mean, this looks like some kind of weird font. I just want something that looks kind of medieval. So there's tons of cool free font sites out there. So medieval. Oh, I did spell it right. Font. And I just want something that doesn't get too distracting for people. And you can go free fonts and you can download all sorts of cool fonts. And the minute you download it, it knows that you can, like, as soon as you install it, Photoshop registers it and you can use it. So Ring Bearer, that's a bit Lord of the Rings, but let's see what the numbers look like because that's all I'm interested in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's actually not bad. That's not bad. So I'm going to download this. So when you download that, I can go here, show open, and hit install. Now I've got a new fancy dancy font for me to use. And the last thing I'm going to do is look up a stone pattern. So I'll show you how to import all of this in as well. Stone pattern Photoshop. If you do that, you can get some cool things. I just want something that feels in line with what the logo of the game does. So depending on the game, depending on the logo and all of that, I'll kind of play around with different things. But I'm just going to find a nice pattern that I can import into Photoshop and use on my new font. I just want a pattern. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm back. I never went anywhere to you. Sorry, I went and found a text that I like and a font that I like. So first we're going to hit the button T, which is our text tool. And we're going to drag. And we're going to go like 1. So this is currently Grow Bold is our font, which is what I normally use for all the Rico Jeeves stuff. But if we go down, because I installed that before, I should have one called Ring Bearer, I believe was the name. And we'll play with that and see how that looks. I think I'm going to end up having to redo this momentarily because I didn't select. So one thing with Photoshop is because it's allowing you to mix fonts and do that kind of thing, you have to select and drag the font that you want to change. So I'm going to go back down to that Ring Bearer font. And see how that looks. I'm torn at the moment. I'm torn because I'm not sure if I want to keep this as this font, this kind of Lord of the Ringsy font, or if I want to do just my regular Grow Bold. I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to, for now, roll with this because we can always change it later. So you'll notice that I've got the font at 500 points, and it's still a little too small. You can go in and you can play with, I think it's the character here, and you can make it bigger. I think if you drag, so you can drag the height, the vertical, or you can just drag it all here as well. So depending on what you need, you can play around with it. I'm not crazy about this one because like the 2 looks good, but the 1, it looks more like an eye to me. And so I'm thinking I might just roll with Grow Bold. I know I went and downloaded that, but I think I'm just going to do Grow Bold because it's a fun font. I like it. It's got a lot going on for it, and it's very obvious what it is, which I quite like. So we'll do that. So now I can go and move it wherever I want with the V tool or your move layer tool. And again, those little guides will help me line up where it needs to go. You can move it up, down, whatever you feel like. But the beautiful thing is we can go in and play around with this and just like we would any other layer while still being able to go back and edit the text at any time. So I downloaded a pattern earlier, which is this one. It's kind of a rock looking pattern, which I kind of like. It's kind of marbly. And so I might do that. And I can go ahead and actually add a gradient over top of this as well. Now, I don't really think I'm going to do that, but you could if you wanted. So all of these tools apply exactly how you want. So I can go in and bevel and emboss this, and I can almost get it looking pretty close to the God of War font, which is kind of cool. So I can go in just as far as kind of how it looks 3D. Now that you know this, you're going to go and see all these advertisements and all these logos, and you're just going to go, oh, I know how they did that, and they did a lazy job. So yeah, welcome to that club. It's a fun place to be. So I'm going to add my drop shadow again because I like it. I'm going to lower the opacity, also the distance of it. And then I'm going to add a stroke to this. And the stroke, I think I'm going to do that. And the last thing I want to do is just make this, I don't like this blue on blue business. So if we highlight this, we can go in and change our base color. And I think I'm going to pick something more in the gray. Because part of it, I like colors a lot, but I haven't done much in gray yet. And it fits the aesthetic. But it's not super visually appealing, is it? This is kind of where, personal preference and everything comes into play. Perfect. I know what I can do. I'm going to borrow from this red and do a bit more of a red thing because that kind of completes the motif. That makes me feel a lot better. So now what we can do, I'm actually going to not put in a drop shadow yet, and I'm going to increase this stroke a tiny, tiny bit. Just the size of it. Just make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to show you another handy trick. And now that I'm showing you this, you're going to know how I did our logo, all of that. And theoretically, you could go and do your own logos just like this. It works really well. It's real simple. So if you go File, convert to rasterize layer style. You know what? Shoot. Okay, so this is one thing you'll want to keep in mind. So if I do this, I'll just do it and I'll show you. So if I go ahead and do this, now I can go in and actually add more shit on top of this. So I can bevel that. I could add a stroke to this, and I could make it gray or whatever I wanted, really. And you can just keep doing that over and over and over again. You keep adding strokes. You can make it a bigger stroke. You can make it a small stroke, whatever you want. And you can keep going and creating nice 3D appealing textures. But one thing to keep in mind is because I've rasterized it, now I can't go back and change it. So that gets annoying because we're making thumbnails. So what you could theoretically do at this stage, if I left this and highlight this, I can go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, export all of these as thumbnails, and my work is basically done. And you can make 10 thumbnails in 30 seconds. You could, yeah. So If you don't rasterize, that can be really nice. If you do rasterize and add more strokes to it, that can be a pain, because then you have to basically, before you do that, you go copy layer style, rasterize, blah, 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 then paste layer style. And that just gets to be really annoying, especially when you do that over and over and over again. You end up driving yourself a little nuts. So in this case, I don't mind it with the one. Like, I think it, if you can zoom out and see how it looks, it seems like it would look okay on your phone or whatever. What I might just do is just make the stroke a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to pull the drop shadow now that I've got a bigger stroke. I'm just going to make the distance a little more noticeable. I like that. I can live with that. And this way I can go in and just make as many thumbnails as I need to in a very short amount of time. So, boy, I don't know. I probably would leave it here at this point. I might play around with this logo a little bit more just because I'm not super happy with it quite yet. Like I said, you can't stroke that. So I might play around with our outer glow a little bit more just because it doesn't look very nice to me. I just want it to pop, and it's not popping. Let's see. That's a little better. Okay, that looks good. So on this note, I don't have much more to show you on this end of things. Like I said, I probably will do a Clip Studio tutorial just to kind of show you how I try and maximize the efficiency when I'm doing things like this. I've got some tips and tricks I can show you in there for outlining, that kind of thing, if any of you do want to draw your own thumbnails. But apart from here, all I have to do now is go File, Export, and I can go Quick Export as PNG, and that will allow me to save this. So I could call this God of, I might just abbreviate it, GeoWar Thumb Part 1. And now next time when I do it, I can just go in and export it as GOW Part 2, GOW Thumb Part 3, blah, 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 on and on until we run out of videos to add thumbnails to. So, yeah, I think that's about it. If any of you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to respond and help you guys out. If you have anything that I went over too quickly or didn't go over in enough detail, let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to help, and I certainly appreciate the views and the subscriptions. So thank you again, and we'll catch you later.